In today's lesson, I'm going to talk about chakras and how you can become more in tune with yourself and those around you on multiple levels. Now, for us to even start to understand chakras, first we have to understand the basics of light and color. If you take pure light and shine it through a prism, the light will break into a spectrum of 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. We familiarly recognize this as the spectrum of the rainbow, or even more familiar, the basic palette in Photoshop. This spectrum as we know it is the foundation of every visible color. What you might not know about color is that each color has its own vibration. Red has the longest wavelength and the slowest vibration frequency. We recognize this as warm and stimulating. Violet has the shortest wavelength and the fastest frequency, and we recognize it as cool and calming. I don't think I have to describe what happens between these two colors. It's just a frequency change. This basic knowledge, believe it or not, is very important, but we're gonna have to look at some other stuff first. Now, in modern science, we've learned that certain colors can stimulate mental activity, and other colors can calm the mind. We know that we need light energy for nourishing our brain, emotion, physical body, and perhaps more importantly, our chakras. So, what is a chakra? The word chakra comes from the Sanskrit word meaning wheel. A chakra is a wheel-like vortex spinning in a circular motion within the body. This forms a vacuum in the center that draws in energy on a vibratory level. It can draw in anything from color vibration to microwaves to energy and emotions of people that we come into contact with. This works in tandem with the thought realm that we discussed last week, as thoughts are on a vibratory level. Right, so chakras are energy points that run vertically from the top of your head down your spine. Depending on how you look at it, there are 7, 8, or 13 primary chakras, as well as over hundreds of smaller, less important ones that are just scattered around the body. I'm going to cover the 8 and 13 later on, so for now let's just stick with the basic 7. Your chakras are kind of like the etheric motor of the soul. Not only do chakras draw in energy, each and every chakra radiates an energy of vibration and govern over a major organ or gland connected to other body parts that resonate of the same frequency. To have balanced and aligned chakras will make you happier, healthier, and more in tune with yourself. When one chakra center is out of sync, it may eventually affect the organs and glands that it's connected to, and cause chakras neighboring them to also go out of sync, causing a chain reaction and many bodily imbalances. A chakra can become out of balance when it is overactive, underactive, or possibly congested or blocked. This is almost always felt on a mental, emotional, or physical level. The benefits to energizing your chakras and learning about them are primarily for a harmony of mind, body, and spirit. Your mind alone cannot nurture your whole being, nor can a proper food diet solve all of your problems. It is through your chakras that you can learn to balance all of you, bringing you into a healthier state of consciousness. As I mentioned before, each chakra is connected to an organ or gland, which governs over a section of the body. The order of the chakras actually go from the bottom up, starting with red, and changing vibrations in each chakra until you get to violet. Before we go any further, think about this. When you break light apart, you get 7 colors. These are the same 7 colors that our physical body is tethered to. What would you see if you were to look at a human through an etheric prism? Are we beings of light? Think about it. Now, not only does each chakra connect to an organ or gland, but each chakra also has a very specific trait. The first chakra is survival and is connected to the adrenal gland. The next one is sex or interaction, which is connected to the gonad. The third is power or ego and is connected to the pancreas. The fourth is love and connects to the thymus. The fifth is expression and connects to the thyroid. The sixth is the third eye, which is psychic and intuitive and connects to the pituitary gland. Finally is the crown chakra, which is the spiritual chakra and connects to the pineal gland. Survival, sex, power, love, expression, intuition, spiritual. These are the 7 traits through which we grow and are at the core of our being. Do you know of a time when you were struggling with your ego, or didn't seem to have a heart, or couldn't express yourself? If you or anyone you know have a problem or come off too strong in any of these traits, the reason why is because of an imbalance within the chakras. Okay, so we know what chakras are now, yet we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of this topic. For the remainder of this lesson, I want to talk about methods of opening, activating, and charging your chakras. I feel like it will be more beneficial to you at this point. As we know, each chakra resonates to a color that we just discussed. Doing things like wearing clothing that matches the color of a chakra will cause it to resonate. I remember when I first learned about this, all of my chakras were closed except for my throat, which was way too open. The reason for this was because my bedroom was painted blue, as well as my bed sheets were blue, and every night I would get a chakra boost in that one area. Sunlight is our main source and provider of light, heat, and energy. Sunlight itself consists of energies in the form of cosmic rays, gamma rays, X-rays, visible light rays, infrared rays, microwaves, and even radio waves. Lying in the sun for half an hour can give you a powerful energy boost. Eating food that matches the chakra colors are good as well. Eating red tomatoes and apples are good for the root chakra. Eating greens are good for the heart. Does this make you want to eat healthier? Color baths are a really relaxing way to open a chakra. You can get this organic fluid that you put in your bath, which changes the color of the bath. You can just lay back and relax and get an energy boost from the water itself. Finally, and this is the best way to open your chakras hands down, go get Reiki. I kid you not, it is the equivalent of spiritual surgery. You lie down and become super relaxed. A Reiki master will then individually go over all of your chakras, opening the ones that are closed and aligning them. See, Reiki masters are people who have had spiritual training on seeing your chakras. Yeah, they can actually see them through the third eye. They learn to move energy throughout their body and connect it and flow it into yours. It's a very amazing process. You may have to ask, but Reiki masters can also typically communicate to your higher self for you and ask you what you need to progress in your path. Reiki itself is growing more and more popular in the last 15 years, so it shouldn't be very hard to find a number of places near you that have it. If you're serious about this and you don't know where to start, Reiki is an excellent first step. Medical science has proven that toxins and impurities, including negative thoughts, chemicals in our food, and other pollutants can influence the body. If these are consistent, chakra imbalances can manifest, which may eventually affect us on a mental and physical levels. Traditional healthcare at this time is unable to naturally or totally alleviate symptoms or cure all of our problems. This means it is up to us to improve our health conditions. We cannot forget about our whole being. In today's society, we put way too much emphasis on independence and not enough on interdependence. Our chakras are interdependent of each other, and we need to take care of all of them to take care of our whole. And that's basics of chakras. Believe it or not, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of this incredible and complex topic. Chakras 2 will be a few weeks away, though. And that's basics of chakras. Believe it or not, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of this incredible and complex topic. Chakras 2 will be a few weeks away, though. Understanding the chakras is understanding the cosmic universal flow. It is a scaling and harmonizing of vibration between polarized frequencies. Just looking at the waveform alone, the vibration of red and the vibration of blue are completely different. Chakras are the exact same way. Now, when a person is focused on one particular chakra, their whole world is colored by the energy of that chakra. It is literally like a lens through which everything in existence is interpreted. In order to explain this clearer, allow me to demonstrate what I'm talking about. You remember the qualities of each chakra, right? We covered that in part 1. The brief overview is survival, sex, willpower, love, and emotion, sound, sacred geometry of creation, and finally, spiritual awareness and understanding. So when a fractal or a piece of the everything known as spirit, consciousness, or God comes into this brand new reality, such as a baby being born, they have one thing on their mind and one thing only. It's survival. They want to be able to survive and stay here. Their whole focus is on being able to survive. They're almost entirely dependent on their guardians at this time, and usually it is the mother and the father who take up that role. Depending on how well mommy and daddy do at making the infant feel safe, the quicker they can transcend to the next level. Nursing is a natural way to bring the child into a state of safety, as well as explore the next chakra simultaneously. The root chakra is synonymous with support from the environment around you. If a child is growing up in an unsafe space, or there's a lack of nurturing to keep the child feeling safe and explorative, it will take longer for solid transition to take place, and can even cause long-term damage to the understanding of the child, and they will grow up with many traumas, anxiety, and pain. The moment survival has been achieved, it becomes clear to spirit that there are 1 or 2 more chakras available. There are actually 2, but spirit may only see 1. It cannot see beyond a half-step wall leading to the heart. The half-step hides the higher chakras from spirit, at least until spirit has learned to master the lower chakras. That wisdom of completion shows the way into the higher understanding. Once survival has been achieved, spirit desires to make contact with other beings in this reality. This is instinctual. When you're a baby, that's usually interpreted as making contact with your mother and father. It is one of the youngest and earliest actions compelled by the sacral chakra, and it is sexual in nature. As you get older and your sacral chakra matures, the desire for contact shifts from the innocence of support from your mother to a different form that I'm sure we're all aware of. The essence of the sacral is to reach out, locate, and make contact with the life that exists in the world around you. At a young age, it covers everything from holding your mother to snuggling a kitty, although it has been in a way programmed out of us by our own media and peer groups. Now that spirit has survived and made contact with other life in the world, the third chakra that is available is called the solar plexus, willpower. Spirit wants to know how things work. What are the laws of this new world? How does gravity work? How do you do things? Using your willpower, you try and control the physical world, picking up toys and playing with them, moving things around. We're all familiar with the age called the terrible twos. It's a common age when spirit is very interested and full of willpower to want to know everything about the world around it, to test it and see what it can do and what it can't do. The child will continue until it's satisfied in its basic understanding of reality. When you're a baby, you are unaware that there's a change in the directions after the third chakra. There's something we call a half step obscuring the next 4 chakras. The child is not aware of the many more chakra lessons to come, and how much more to life there really is. The child is oblivious to it. On Earth, even when we become adults, we may still not know that there are higher centers in the body. Much of this world is still living in the first 3 chakras, but that is changing fast. Mother Earth is waking up. The egg of life, the original 8 cells of the human body, a form that takes place shortly after conception. This particular biological cell division is important because the body coming into form is perfectly and evenly divided into the 4 elements, with a yin and yang of each, giving you 8 perfect spheres. These spheres each contain a fractal of the whole, each representing a core aspect of the various parts of the human spirit, as represented by different body parts. These 8 spheres become the first physical representation of the complete 8 chakra system, of which from root to root connects the physical energy of the earth through the body to the higher awareness of the unified field and its infinite connections to everything. The 8th chakra is the root of the next world, connecting you with your eternal self, beyond the limits of the physical body. And as with the heart, a half step hides this portal for those who have reached the higher centers. Hey there. So do you remember how I mentioned chakras are like lenses of reality? I wanted to expand on that, so I built this model for you in order to explain it better. Think of chakras like your field of awareness, and depending on which one you're focused in, your awareness becomes focused and narrow, or wide and expansive. When you're en route, a survival focus, your perception is focused on one thing, surviving the crisis or situation. It is a very thin beam. But now if you're in the third eye, your other chakra is covered and satisfied. Your expanding vision grows very wide in order to see all of the connections. Your telepathic and mental reach becomes greater. The third eye is all about seeing the geometry, so it can focus on a very specific shape, or expand its vision to a very wide understanding of all of the patterns and how they connect. You can imagine how you might switch between them on the fly. Let's say you're camping out with some friends in a moonlit night. Everyone feels safe. Maybe there are some brotherly bonds being created. And you're telling a story, sharing meaningful experiences with your companions. In this moment, your primary or dominant chakra is the throat. And then the bear shows up. Everyone panics. Now nobody feels safe, and everyone scatters away, running for their lives. Everyone's reality lens drops down to the root focus, survival mode, and it will remain there until everyone feels safe again. After which, we scale back up the lower levels until we reach our equilibrium with each other, wherever that is with that particular group. That example, of course, is only one of many possible responses to the crisis of the bear showing up. Depending on the awareness of the group, the responses could vary anywhere from calmly turning your back and walking away in peace, all the way to an energetic nod to the bear that they are friendly, and that if the bear is interested, they'd love to do some photography together. Human to animal communication is far more simple than we realize. What is required is a stable foundation of understanding and mental, emotional connection to that which you're connecting to. The process of being there is in fact that very shift in awareness and transition into the higher centers, into the heart, beyond the wall of the first half step. I previously regarded this as a half step, which it is, and with some further research into harmonic theory and some inspiring discussion with some close friends, we've also decided to refer to it as a mirror wall. In practice, when you see it through these chakra lenses, it just shows you what you know. And when you step through it, moving into the heart, everything gets bigger. It's through the looking glass style. This mirror wall, or half step, is essentially an invisibility wall that hides the higher chakras from spirit when it's exploring the lower ones, still new to this reality. But once a level of mastery has been established within the first 3 chakras, spirit can catch a glimpse of, or even move into, the next part of life experiences. Now let's bring it full circle with this. What we're looking at here is the human 8 chakra system, the primary chakras or nodal points running up and through the body. Human energy, from sexual to electrical, moves in the pattern you see here. The transition steps are located between the 3rd and 4th chakras and the 7th and 8th chakras. The difference between the system, 7 and 8, or 12 and 13, is really all in about how you're analyzing the data. It's all the same data, just different dimensions of observation. Let me show you the geometry of how this actually works. We've looked at this before, and this time we're going to look deeper. The key here is actually many keys. It's all inlaid in the piano. You know how an octave on a keyboard has 5 black keys and 7 white keys? Those black keys are mid-steps between each of the white keys. In music theory, they're called sharps or flats, depending on which key you're using as a reference point. Officially, this is called a half step. Normally, one white key to a black key is a half step, and with the black key in the middle, from white to white, is referred to as a whole step. However, when it happens between 2 white keys, this is an unusual transition, the less common but still pertinent 90-degree shift in tones throughout the audible spectrum. If you mapped it on a simple wave graph, it might look like this, up and down, yin and yang, between the white and black keys, except for 2 places. The transition that we're talking about is literally a 90-degree turn, the space to where there are no black keys between white keys. If these are all 45-degree turns oscillating to and fro with each other, then these spaces between the white keys are a 90-degree turn. And you remember all about those from lesson 7, right? And this is actually a pretty big deal when you relate it to consciousness. That half step between white keys is a point of transition, the singularity in aha moments where all of the dots of your life all connect with each other in a new way, where you bridge your newly mastered lower centers with the previously unknown higher centers. And when you are willing to step through that doorway into what's next, step into the higher centers, everything changes. The mirror wall or half step is there so that you won't know it until you've mastered all of the lower centers to a certain degree. So for the most part, when you're growing up, you're usually in the 3 lower chakras. You may be in all of them at once, or maybe mostly in one and partly in the others. Or it could be a constantly moving, balanced blend or combination of all 3. This pattern is true of a person, a country, a planet, a galaxy, or anything alive. At any level of existence, this same pattern of movement occurs. Let's take a country like the United States, for example. This is a brand new country in an old world. Compared to other countries in Europe or elsewhere, America is just a baby. So up until the 1950s, the vast majority of people in America were in one of the 3 lower chakras. Not everybody, of course, but most people. Their biggest concerns in life revolved around power, money, materialism, houses, cars, sex, food, especially with survival aspects, making sure they stored up enough money to feel secure. It was a really materialistic world, but something happened. In the 1960s, the act of changing one's consciousness began to rapidly alter what was thought to be normal. We had the first psychedelic revolution, and while the world's governments quickly put the hammer down, the damage was done. People began to practice meditation and entering the higher centers. Now please understand, America was not the first to do this. If you go to an old country like India, Tibet, and certain parts of China, you'll find that at some point in their history, they moved into their higher centers. They, as a country, moved through the mirror wall. Recognize the difference between moving into the higher centers as a country rather than as a species. This is not a fully enlightened state. It is simply a more conscious one. As they moved through these higher 4 centers, they would have eventually came to another mirror wall after the 7th chakra, keeping the focus to this new realm and everything that they had discovered before. The thing about half steps, once a person, family, group, city, or country goes beyond the first half step, they're never the same again. Once they know that there's something more to life than what they had previously thought, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to figure out how to get back to those upper centers, even if they had just had a fleeting experience of these higher worlds. In terms of a person or a country, once it gets above the first half step, moving into the heart, the sound currents, the geometries, and spiritual nature of things, what sometimes happens is that they lose their concern about the lower centers of consciousness. They sort of stop caring about their physical side as much. You know, like whether the house is nice or if even they have a house anymore. They're more concerned about the information they're learning and experiences that they're having in relationship to the nature of each other and higher consciousness. You see it all the time with hippies. But now I'm on a tangent. So sometimes when you look at these older countries, they seem to be physically almost devastated because their whole focus is towards trying to find out what reality and life is like on higher levels. More connection, more communication, more family. An example of this kind of country is India. Once a country actually moves through the final mirror wall into the 8th chakra together, which is very difficult, mind you, their only concern is what happens after death, the next level of life. It feels to me like this was the case in ancient Egypt. And I want to briefly explain that because it's not what it sounds like. The country wasn't concerned with dying physically. It wasn't a mass suicide. Rather, it was about what's next for everything that they've learned. Branches were created and spread out and expanded and started forming new cultures and new societies with different groups of the world, merging and expanding. Those ancient Egyptians did all kinds of things to understand that process of ascension, death, resurrection, moving into the next levels. So much so that they had a 24-year preparation followed by a powerful dose of psilocybin, and into the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid they go for 3 days and 2 nights. Their primary purpose of doing this was to find the doorway and enter into the higher worlds, and then return to Earth, the physical reality, and show others how to live life with awareness and love, and how they too can move into the next levels of life. What a trip. You know what I'm saying? So, wrapping up this segment, you can see how this pattern applies at both a level of the individual as well as the level of a country, or even how it might apply to an entire planetary populace. And next time, we're gonna go even deeper. Till then.